What's up, Bitcoin Radio? Guess what? We're live again 2 days in a row. Congratulations, everybody. You get to look at my beautiful face talking about some crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin action. And I'm actually really excited about this one for different reasons. You know, every now and then you get the opportunity to have a show or to be around people that not only do you know, like my co-host here, Miss Ashlie Meredith, who I'll introduce here shortly. You may remember her from episode number 36 when we were able to talk a little bit about the Mousebelt University program. And again, you know, you're the director, Ashlie, obviously, and we're going to get into that here shortly. But for those of you, for the audience who's listening, who may be watching this for the first time, who wasn't there, I definitely encourage you to go back and listen to episode 36. But more importantly, we have also Mr. Zach Nelson, who is the president, co-founder of the University of Washington Blockchain Alliance. Blockchain. What is it called, Zach?
It's the Blockchain Society.
Dadgummit. What's up, Kurt? Glad you're watching with us tonight. As I get to sit here next to people who are really paving a different path in the blockchain, one that really hasn't happened yet. You know, and of course, Ashlie, you got to introduce this project and this program a little bit at one point on one of the episodes before us. You know, a lot of you don't realize how big of a deal this actually is and what it means for the space to have young entrepreneurs or young blockchain-minded folks really have an opportunity to not just learn, but to be involved in the creation of what's next for this blockchain 2.0, right? Or 3.0 or 4.0, wherever we're at this point. But Ashlie, you know, look, you're the co-host of this show. I don't want to talk too much. I want you to have an opportunity to introduce the show as you see it, because this is something that we want to do at least once a week, maybe more if this really catches on. But what's going on, Ashlie? How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on again, and thanks to Zach.
You're the co-host.
Oh yeah, thanks for inviting me to be a co-host on Bitcoin Radio. Really excited to kind of develop a show where we can talk about what I've seen kind of behind the scenes on the university side. So I invited Zach here as well to tell us what is going on with blockchain on college campuses. And I think we talked about before that I thought it was really important that people get to know what students are actually doing, how much hard work they're actually putting in to bring mass adoption, and just recognize them for that. And also encourage people to get involved with our initiatives and to look to provide educational content and to engage with student developers because of the unique microcosms that they exist in. They're on a university campus. It's kind of a closed circuit. So the more that they can interact with us and network and engage, and you know, they have brilliant ideas as well that are only going to push the industry forward. So with that, I would love for Zach to kind of could you take us through the history of UW Blockchain Society? I think it's a great example of how a lot of student blockchain organizations start and how a lot of initiatives even get started at universities as a whole, even things like courses. So maybe you can walk us through that.
Sure, Ashlie. I just want to say it's so great to be here and to be here with you, Joe. Really exciting to be here on the show. This is something that we've been looking forward to for a while. So for all of the different officers who may be tuning in at home, thank you so much. And, you know, I couldn't be here without the help of, you know, hundreds of different students who have contributed on different pieces of work through the years. So this has really been a collaborative effort. But just a little bit about me. I got into Bitcoin first in 2011 when I mined my first Bitcoin. And I was
Zach, how old were you there?
I was
11.
So that was 8 years ago. So I was 14.
That's amazing. Keep going. I'm sorry. I just I had to point that out.
So yeah, I was 14. So yeah, I was really interested in it. And then we thought it was really amazing how you could have this currency that the government didn't control. That was kind of a new thing that we could trade with each other. The price would go up and down, and it was decentralized technology. And that kind of innate curiosity that I have towards new technology is what really drew me to the space. So ever since then, I kind of just followed it along. So to me, when it kind of started to come up in mainstream news, I saw Bitcoin on MSNBC, CNN. It was kind of just amazing that these kind of things would even gain traction. As someone who was trading Bitcoin around $9 to $10 and no one had even heard about the technology before. So that kind of was high school. And then getting into college, everyone kind of realizes that, yeah, the price went up very rapidly in 2017. And that kind of drew in a lot of people who weren't traditionally in the space. So people who may have been investors or just generally interested in the hype, whatever it may have been, when that prices started going up, a lot of attention was kind of drawn into the space. And so what I would notice as I was going between my classes day to day, I would literally be going into classes and kids would be sitting there refreshing Coinbase on their phone every 5 or 10 minutes, just talking about the prices of crypto, about the technology behind it. And at this time, there was no such thing as any kind of club on campus, There was no curriculum. No teachers had heard of this. It was just something that kind of existed between the students, something they were excited about. So I kind of knew that the only way that this was really going to get adoption and for us to kind of come together, work on projects, and potentially influence industry was to have some place, a home for us to kind of come together, collaborate, innovate, and educate each other on this new technology. So about 2 years ago, I found
Hold on, Zach, let me ask you a question. All right. So, obviously this, you're explaining this in like this chronological order that just sounds so simple and easy, but clearly it wasn't just this simple steps. Like it just happened, right? What was there a lot of pushback at that time? Like when you really first started, like, was there a lot of people saying, especially on the administrator side, like, what are you talking about? Like, get out of here, bro.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're like, what the hell is this blockchain thing,
Sure.
this Bitcoin thing? Are you trying to buy drugs with this? We don't understand this. They were just very confused. Luckily, at UW Bothell, we had an advisor there who's the dean of the business school. I sent out an email to literally every faculty on campus.
Well done.
I managed to get this like secret email address that could email, which now they've blocked. They don't even allow that to happen anymore at UW. But I was like, I need to find an advisor. So I blasted it out to every teacher on campus, and luckily the dean responded to me. He was the only one. He said, wow, this sounds so interesting. I'd love to help out. He called me about 10 minutes later. You needed 5 people to form a club at UW. That's the minimum. So I just grabbed 4 other people in my class who were kind of interested in this. We went down, filled out the paperwork, and we were formed. It was actually Valentine's Day. I remember that because my girlfriend at the time was pretty mad that I wasn't paying attention. I needed to get this club done. But what's interesting is that the next day, what we learned is that other students had tried to form a club the very next day. So I was actually just one day early.
No way.
To become the president and co-founder because there had been so much other interest on campus.
Sure. No, that's really cool. And, when I hear that story, it's probably not so dissimilar to a lot of the people around college campuses, whether they had success in forming a club or not. It's probably something that, that they went through in some capacity early on. Not a lot of understanding, not a lot of interest, probably a lot of skepticism. And this still is. I don't want to pretend like that's all gone. But, through that, you were able to find people who at least would back you up, even if they were just faking it, right? Because they're your buddies. But I mean, like, that's a lot of perseverance, Zach. And I really want people to, especially if you're listening, if you're watching this, whether it's for the first time or not, you've got to understand these are people that like Zach and like Ashlie that are persevering through a space. And I'm not talking about the crypto space. I'm talking about the college space that has a lot of like, I would almost say like compounded ideas about what things should already be, because that's what they are taught. That's what they're teaching back. And so to bring in something so new is probably not the easiest thing to come through. Now, Ashlie, before Zach continues on the story, like you're seeing this on a nationwide level. You're over this program, right? And are you hearing the same internationally? That's right. I mean, we're all over, and you've got a really good grasp of the pulse of the college campuses in general. And I'm sure Zach, you do as well to a certain extent. But Ashlie, is this a common theme that you're hearing from what Zach has just said?
Yeah, I thought it might be good to tell any of our listeners who may not be familiar with this process of, and maybe Zach can help me. It's been a long time since I've done it, but all through undergraduate, I was very involved in student government and campus activism and involvement. And so maybe you, Zach, you can help me explain as well kind of what the process is to get any sort of support for things that students are interested in on campus.
Sure.
Maybe just like the process, how that actually works.
Sure. So the official process at UW, and we are a tri-campus organization. So we operate at UW Bothell, UW Tacoma, and the main Seattle campus. Each campus has a little bit different process, but essentially you need to form with 5 students. You need to write a constitution, and you need to have a faculty advisor. And then once you kind of put that together, once you want to go ahead and request funding and different things like that, there's processes for that as well. But I think that our main challenge really was just getting that faculty interest and resolve. When I actually went up, I'm not going to name names, but I went up to one of the top 3 people at UW, and I sat in their office with them. And this was when Ripple was first starting to do funding. And I said, look, they're giving away all these money to universities. We should be a part of this. We're doing so much work. And they just kind of pushed me to the side and just kind of ignored it, and then had to watch a year and a half of press of all these other schools getting funded. Yeah. So I think
how frustrating was that, dude?
What was that?
How frustrating was that?
I mean, it killed me. I mean, here we have, you know, oh, to continue with the story, we didn't end up with 5 members. Ultimately, now we have around 750 on all campuses.
Wow.
PhD students, business students, CS students, design, you name it. This is a really interdisciplinary group.
Sure.
But to have all these students coming to us, as well as industry, Amazon, Microsoft, T-Mobile, these are all players in the Pacific Northwest who have blockchain departments. And they were so frustrated that the school wasn't innovating. They weren't doing curriculum. They weren't fostering projects, and they didn't really understand the business needs of these companies or understand that the students were just fascinated by this and wanted to learn more.
Zach, let me, not to interrupt you again. I'm sorry I keep doing this because this is really so interesting, and there's so much that goes along with this. And you know, you've lived this life, so it's just kind of part of the normal like deal that you had to deal with, right? But to a lot of other people and the people that are listening, and especially if you watch this, and if you're watching right now, you're a college student, you may think that it's an insurmountable obstacle to try to make something happen, right? Especially if your campus doesn't have an official program. And you know, this is what Ashley's here for. This is what Zach's experience is here to allow you to do, is reach out to these people. And we'll get into that here in a little bit, but I really want to make sure that people take note of that. Maybe you know somebody who has gone through this sequence of events that has been like, no, but eventually it was a yes, was it not?
Yeah, and a huge yes. And we're growing every year even bigger. So it's been exciting for sure.
No, that's amazing. So, you know, and obviously, Ashlie, I'll let you kind of have you know, the next few minutes here, but Zach, this does not come without a lot of success for you as an individual. And as I got a chance to know you on a prior call, I was super impressed with a lot of things that you're able to do. And you briefly kind of introduced yourself, but let's talk about what this actually allowed you to do later on. Like, where did that lead to next for you as an individual, not as necessarily the program, but just to kind of give an inspirational story as an individual?
Sure. So, I mean, you know, I got to work for Ripple last summer. I interned for Ripple. That was really amazing experience. So I spent San Francisco there with the product marketing team. Fantastic. I've gotten to go all over the world. London Blockchain Week. I've gotten to go to New York, San Francisco, the Philippines to work for a Filipino company on blockchain, Loyal Coin.
Wow.
Of course, you know, this isn't just me, but I mean, members of our club, because of Mousebelt, have also gotten to travel to places like Korea. Is fantastic. So, I mean, for me, and I think it's really important to note too, is that I'm not a computer science student. So I don't code. I'm more marketing and business and strategy focused. And even with that, I was able to find my place in this space and really excel. So I think there's a lot of kind of fear around the fact that, you know, you might have to be really technical to get into this, or that it's not for everybody. And that's not really the case. Like, this is a very inclusive and big industry. And I think that people who are leading it, like myself and Ashlie, have done a really good job and are trying to do a good job, including lots of different kinds of people in this as well.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say I'm so glad to have Zach as an ambassador for Mousebelt, because you hit the nail right on the head with what I believe as well, which is that there is actually so much opportunity for people to get involved in this space, and that you don't have to be heavily technical. And that's something that I want to communicate to people. Also, that the fact that the issues that blockchain touches are so important that everyone should be involved, or at least care in some way. So it's great to hear that you agree with me on that. To take it back to kind of your experience building blockchain communities and working, especially what is going on campuses, I kind of see maybe there's like 2 difficulties that you might, or 2 hurdles that you kind of may have touched, but I have heard from others as well, which is 1, the negative popular perception of cryptocurrency in general, and the fact that many of these clubs were getting started as Bitcoin kind of enthusiast clubs before they maybe, and we can go back to talking about the development of your club and how that goes. But usually a lot of these clubs start with a lot of interest in Bitcoin and they want to do trading. And I imagine that you would be met with some difficulty with the public perception of cryptocurrencies, and whether most of the professors you reached out to thought it was a scam. Was there some negative perception of crypto on campus for you?
Oh, absolutely. A ton of negative perception. I think that when we first kind of launched this, there was a lot of kind of Bitcoin enthusiasm.
What year was that?
That was in 2017, February 14th. But yeah, no.
That's a good time to start, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great time to start. But I think what happened initially is that, when it was really frustrating to me, as someone who was working on this so many hours, is that we would be putting on all these great events. We were trying to bring speakers in, And a lot of the computer science students and professors would just kind of like laugh at us or think like, oh, haha, like this isn't real tech. This is just some kind of hobby. These people don't actually like, understand code. This isn't actually going to grow into something that enterprises can use. We're just going to code our own thing. We're going to ignore this because it's not valuable to us. That's how it was 2 years ago. I mean, so there was like no respect really from that computer science community versus now I would say 60% of our members are computer science students. So even in the 2 years since we've formed, the perception has changed so quickly. And I think a lot of that is because of work like Ashlie is doing, really getting the perception out there, hiring ambassadors like myself to go to campuses to speak about these issues so that students can really understand that this isn't black and white. There's a lot of different angles to look at this. And maybe there has been some negative things done with cryptocurrency and people can certainly point to those, but that's a very small part of where this industry is going and kind of the greater impact it will have on the world. And I wanted to touch on Ashley's point really quick about social impact. When we went to London Blockchain Week, that was actually sponsored by the World Health Organization, which is really interesting why you brought that up. And the topic of that was women's health in developing countries. So we actually did a sexual assault reporting tool on the NEM blockchain at that time. And, that could affect...
That is amazing.
Thank you. Well, that could potentially affect many, thousands of people's lives who may not even know what blockchain is. So I think that the people assume that you have to know what blockchain is maybe to get affected by it. But I think it's almost the opposite. I think that it's going to start affecting people before they even really understand the technology, kind of similar to the internet.
That's an amazing point. Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that the perception is changing. And I think it points to the important fact that people should get involved and that we need like marketers. We need people who even just to bring on more technical people into the space, we need people who can communicate. And who can communicate these kinds of ideas. And, I would love to talk to you more about sex tech and women and world health. Maybe you can speak a little bit more about your experience in there and how you were using blockchain in that case.
Sure. So absolutely. So this was for the London Blockchain Week, which happened last year. It's a week-long conference. And the beginning part of that conference, there's a 2 to 3 day hackathon. So I was able to go with school funding. Luckily, they were able to fund us to go out to London with me and 2 other students. And when we were in that hackathon, we really wanted to do something that spoke to the best of blockchain. And I think a lot of that is privacy and the ability of free speech. So in a lot of countries such as India, which was one example we focused on, and one of our people who worked with us in the group had family in India, they would talk to us about how a lot of these women would go and they would report sexual assaults that may have happened to them to the police or to other authorities just to be told to go home, or there's just no kind of way to track that information. And so we realized that this is a huge problem. A lot of these assaults were happening with no way for the women to get health care. There was no way to really track areas that maybe have been more dangerous or, provide resources maybe. So if someone in the United States may have heard something that they cared about, they could actually donate on the platform. And this wasn't so much of a crime reporting platform that we found that could be harder to do. It was more about getting health and education as well as reporting. So because blockchains, you can't censor a blockchain, we decided that, the NEM tool and to build this on a blockchain would be really smart, similar to what Inkrupt did. Inkrupt is a Harvard based project that allows journalists to go out and kind of talk about what they're seeing on the ground in countries that may have oppressive governments. We wanted to kind of do the same thing for sexual assault. And why I thought that was really cool is because, people might not have think of that as a blockchain use case. I think they're so used to seeing stuff about pump and dumps and making a lot of money that some of the real use cases that could actually affect real people kind of get pushed to the side. So it was kind of a cool example for me to kind of promote that, real projects that you can get done on blockchain that isn't as obvious.
I hear this. I mean, and obviously we're all here as proponents and supporters of what blockchain is and what it can be in the future, right? And so we're all biased. I mean, let's be real. I mean, it's natural. And I hear what you just said, and I think about not just of how awesome that opportunity was, and to at least bring exposure and to bring an idea about that aspect of how this can be used. But this really scales into every aspect of our life. And this is what I want people to remember. Like, and Ashlie and Zach, both of you made a really good point here. I mean, whether you need marketing or whether you're just, Joe Schmo like me, not a single one of us here are computer scientists, not a single one. I mean, Ashlie, you're a philosopher. I mean, you went to school, you have master's degrees, you've been a professor. Zach, you're a college student and you're going to school to be in business, and you've already accomplished a lot, even as it's just a college student, more than most people, and even in this space have. But, there's so much potential for anybody who's really genuinely interested and loves the idea and the scalability. Idea people can make a living in this space. And I want to reemphasize, and Zach, and I would love to get your perspective, obviously Ashlie too. And I don't want to step on your toes here, Ashlie, or take any of your questions that I know that you've prepared, but I've got like just this idea of like college students, like this is a brand new world. Like anything can happen. All you got to do is convince one person with a little bit of money to be like, yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. I got you. Right. I mean, this space is ever expanding. There's so much growth. There's so much potential. And we haven't literally scratched the surface yet. It's just not even begun. And Zach, so I want to ask you, and Ashlie, you're going to have like the bigger picture idea of this, but I want to start with you, Zach, since you have this like, it's focused. I mean, you're the president, right? Like you see what your community inside UW is. And like what you said, there's a lot of computer scientists, and that number has been growing. And I'm sure it's actually probably going to continue to be growing because the money is there for computer scientists right now, right? But do you still see a pretty steady growth of people who are not in crypto, like as a blockchain, like ideology? Like people are like just joining and they see it as blockchain rather than trading now. I mean, like because 2017 is a good year to get into trade, right?
Right.
But that attracts sometimes the wrong type of interest. So nowadays, as the market has kind of, fizzled out as far as altcoins going ballistic, is it people who are genuinely interested in creating rather than, trying to make a little bit of money off a pump and dump?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for students, right, like we're going to college, a lot of students, to get internships and then to get jobs that we find valuable. And blockchain has such a demand right now. So for example, we have the largest social media team ever that we've onboarded this year. I think we have anywhere from 8 to 10 officers focused exclusively on social media. And while they have an interest in blockchain and they understand the technology, they also understand that if they understand blockchain and social media, they can go work in a lot of these blockchain companies and have a place there that isn't technical. And I think
Absolutely.
Same thing for
hey, look, I need some right now. We got a great social media guy, and that's Charles, but I mean, we could always use help. So if anybody wants to intern, I'm sure Ashlie and Patrick and myself will all be happy to sign off on that and give them some really big, nice letters of recommendation post internship, just so like keep that in your back pocket.
No,
that's anybody.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people join the club is that they recognize the huge opportunities in this space. And the school is failing to provide them with those opportunities.
Sure.
They come to us instead because the school doesn't have an internship pipeline. They don't know Mousebelt. They don't understand as well. Maybe they've heard of these things, but they're not as focused on it on a holistic and from the top down level as much as the club can be. And kind of going back to your point about innovation, I wanted to bring this up. Students kind of are the ones making the change at these universities. For example, I actually am writing curriculum right now to be piloted at UW and at Bellevue College. UW contacted me, and so did Bellevue because they don't have anyone else to teach it. So they were a little bit surprised, I think, when I came into the interview, a little bit. And I'm so, I'm like 22, but at the same time, they needed people in this space to be able to teach this knowledge. And so when I taught at UW last quarter, so many of my students were just so grateful that they could actually go somewhere and have like a secure source of knowledge. So many of them were like, you can't trust what you always read online in terms of blockchain. So being able to take in a class at a university, even if it is fostered by students, especially if it's fostered by students, I think has a really big impact.
I love it, Zach. I mean, great job, by the way, and I appreciate that explanation. I think you did a really good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to go back on that point of the two kind of barriers that I see with students and working with the universities to build blockchain programming on campus is maybe a hesitance to work with hesitancy to work with industry. And as you explained with that example with the Ripple grants that they were giving out, they were giving $1 million grants to multiple campuses across the US. And where do you think that hesitancy might come from? Is that just something that's baked into the university program, and then how do you think we have been able to mitigate that by going directly to students to work with them, and some of the things, we're doing with the Blockchain Education Alliance?
Yeah, for sure. I think universities, unfortunately, are very reactionary, right? They don't actually act unless someone else tells them or they see a need to. They're very happy just doing same old. And I think a lot of people who may work at institutions as well kind of feel the same way. These things have been working for a while. Why do we need to teach about blockchain? Why do we need to focus on that? Everything is going fine. So I think that there's just kind of this apathy and this not really like innovation that at least happens at a lot of schools. I mean, you can there's exceptions to that, right? Like MIT has been teaching blockchain since 2014, but like that's why they're MIT, is because they are innovating before all the other students, all the other schools, and the other schools are just kind of reacting to the industry needs. I think the other point about it is that most educators and administrators are not technical, or so they don't understand anything about tech, even less than like someone like me who is not technical either, and they're very skeptical. So they're very focused.
Maybe as they should be too, in some capacity, right?
Sure. Absolutely, and they should be, right? Because everyone might be wanting to teach something else, right? What students are being taught is very important, especially because they're paying for it. But in the case of UW, I think that they were just kind of nervous. They didn't want to put something out that would be wrong. They didn't know if this was some kind of scam. When I talked to a lot of the teachers, for a year, literally a year, they would say, "How's the Bitcoin Club doing? How's the Bitcoin Club?" Like that, and I'm like,
"Chill." You should be like, "Yes, it's up."
It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome, and it's awesome when the price is going up, right? Because then they're excited. But for even now, I'm sure a lot of the administrators, the only reason they even pay attention to you is because of the price of Bitcoin.
Sure.
They don't understand the technology behind it at all, and I don't think that they really took the time to care, at least initially.
So before we talk about your events, some of the events that you've been doing and the events you have coming up, maybe talking a little bit more about how we've been able to facilitate those kinds of conversations that the universities sometimes serve as barriers to, as far as getting the right information about market trends and opportunities in blockchain, and how we've been able to work directly with students, either through some of the events we've done with you or conversations we're starting to have with our Blockchain Education Alliance. So we started with 13 schools in the US to partner with to support student events. UW Blockchain Society was one of the first. And just recently we launched the Blockchain Education Alliance, which started with, I just realized, 13 companies, and we'll be bringing on more soon. But we've got some of the biggest blockchain and crypto projects in the space who all have committed to supporting innovation in the space, specifically by supporting student entrepreneurs, education in blockchain, and research. Maybe report back about any of those collaborations.
Oh, for sure. I think that what was really interesting to me and cool to me about joining the ambassador program is that instantly so many other students reached out to me and asked, how's the program? Is it worth joining? And I was like, yes, of course, join. Because as a student leader, and I'm sure other student clubs had known this, once you kind of announce that you're doing something blockchain on campus, all these groups reach out to you, right? So you kind of have to wade through who's real, who's actually legit. And it was very clear that Mousebelt is the leader in this space, 100% in terms of community engagements. And I mean that truly. I mean, Mousebelt has sponsored us to go to Korea before. We put on a blockchain expo because of Mousebelt. I'm going to throw, so much has happened because we were able to work with them. And not only just these conferences, which have been huge and it educated 600 to 700 people. Like Mousebelt, we had the Blockchain Expo last fall. That was the biggest event ever in the Pacific Northwest. And
wow.
Mousebelt was a big part of that. We also, going up, we just had a call last week. We got to talk with Tron. We got to talk with Bittrex. Already Tron has talked to us about wanting to work with us on a hackathon. Bittrex wants to do a lunch and learn. So there's been, lots of exciting developments and innovation that has happened purely because we're in this, this group. And I think for me, I've gotten to meet so many other talented students in this space who want to work on projects. I talked to some folks at Blockchain at Mason. They're working on a Midwest blockchain conference that's never been done before. So much has really gotten brought to me because I've been a part of this. And as an ambassador, I think it really is the place to be. If you're a student in blockchain or a student leader, you should be a part of the Mousebelt, Alliance. And if you're not, you're kind of just like missing out.
Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah. And so in the description of this episode, I was hoping that we could talk about, by industry working directly with students, what Mousebelt is trying to do is create spaces for opportunity, innovation, and collaboration to just kind of organically emerge. And that's what we're seeing. And so, one of these resources we have as well is Bitcoin Radio, and being able to bring students on to talk about what they're doing. And so we have a couple of students from UCSB, Blockchain at UCSB. They have a big summit coming up, and I just wanted them to get a chance to introduce themselves, talk about the event briefly, because Mousebelt is sponsoring, and just tell us what will be going on this weekend. So we have Pigi and Cam from Blockchain at UCSB.
Here they come. Y'all ready, PG and Cam? Here we go.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for having us. Hey, Zach. Hey, Zach. How's it going? Yeah, it's been big rush. We've been working hard for the past 3 months or so.
Wait, I love that you have some sort of formula math problem behind you.
Yeah.
What is? Tell me. I gotta notice. Right? Tell me what are we looking at? I see an oven of some sort. No, a train.
That is actually counting the amount of lavaliers we need for the different panels.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
I just had to give you some love. I noticed it. It's cool. I mean, I don't understand it. Deal.
No worries.
So you guys are literally.
It's pretty chill. But yeah, as Ashlie was saying, we are hosting this big conference, which is actually the first large conference in the Central Coast of California. It's called the Santa Barbara Blockchain Summit, and it's coming up this Saturday. It's an all-day event with 3 different tracks. We have what we call the main stage with panels and keynotes. The second room will be more lectures. So what is Bitcoin? What is Ethereum, for people who are looking to learn from scratch? And the third room is going to be more developer focused with roughly 6 hours of hands-on development. We have people from Truffle coming in, teaching a 3-hour workshop on Ethereum and Solidity. Then we're going to have a workshop on Hyperledger. So we also wanted to showcase this like permissionless versus permission blockchain for, kind of like accommodate everybody's needs and whoever is willing to learn either one of the two. So yeah, it's been a long run, a lot of work. Cam, do you want to add something?
Yeah, Ashlie, what were you going to say?
Oh, was going to ask, who are the speakers you're excited to have to host?
Yeah, so kind of the angle that we're trying to take here is not everyone really cares about Bitcoin, but people might care about the problems that Bitcoin solves, and this idea of decentralized ownership of not only wealth, but digital, your digital identity. And we really feel like, our data has kind of been weaponized against us. You can kind of see this all around the world. Specifically around this company called Cambridge Analytica. So what we're trying to do is just get people to realize what the hell is happening out there, because most people have no idea what's going on. So we invited the previous COO of Cambridge Analytica.
Nice.
And he will be coming. And so that first track that PG was talking about with a lot of the keynotes is really just to get people to understand the role of technology in democracy. How, and why democracies around the world are like quickly faltering. You can see this not only in the United States, but in Brazil and Mexico and Argentina and Chile and Bolivia. It goes on and on and on. And, data is an incredibly powerful tool to essentially break up countries from within. And this is essentially the Russian strategy right now. So get people to realize what the hell is going on. So we think one of the best ways to do this is to bring top tier professors, industry leaders, the CEO of Cambridge Analytica, to talk about what has happened, how it can happen again, all these different scandals, and what we can do to protect ourselves, and the role of blockchain in between all of this.
Awesome.
If you guys want, I can share my screen and just like so you guys can see like the whole complete roster of speakers that we have. Would that
Yeah,
work for you
go
guys?
for it.
Yeah.
Show us some of the speakers, and if you can let anyone listening know where to find more information about the event.
So you can find more information at sbbs.site. That's pretty much our website and our main part of content. I'm trying to see.
What was that?
This one?
It's a sbbs.site. So we were, the comms these days are getting pretty expensive. So
Yes.
we had to resort to a site.
Awesome,
So some of these speakers are, they're world-class open source gurus, professors. So Brian Fox created the GNU Bash shell, which is used by almost every engineer in the world every day. Rod Garrett, he works with the Bank of Canada and the Federal Reserve here on creating a state-backed digital currency, and he'll be talking about his experiences there. If you scroll down, some of these people are top leaders in the IoT space and
Especially
are working.
Dr. Bhaskar.
Are working directly with blockchain to ensure that sensors aren't tampered with in certain real-world environments, and are actively working with the city of LA to test their protocols. It's really interesting stuff.
You you got Rachel on there. It's a friend of mine. I have a lot of respect for her. Now, one of the things I want to mention and say here is like, I like that you're incorporating the actual world that exists already. Like it's like sometimes people in blockchain and crypto, they forget that these people aren't going away, right? You can dislike them or not like them or whatever your opinion might be, but they're still there in very powerful and really influential positions. And to incorporate that conversation at a really high level and a really intricate level, people who understand this tech probably better than people give them credit for, right? These people have a say-so and how it's going to be implemented in the future, right? I mean, like, this is wonderful. I'm looking at this lineup. This is incredible, guys.
Thanks. Yeah, very well said. Actually, we had a very interesting talk with Professor Garrett recently, and he works, as Cameron said, he works directly with the Fed, and like he was advocating that like the Fed cannot just simply disappear from a day to another. Like we gotta mediate with these people. We gotta like try to find better ways, to solve problems that for sure crypto and blockchain are addressing. But like as you said, like these people are not going away. So this is pretty much the focus that we have for this conference. Whoa,
I see that guy right there. Look at that. Cameron.
Yeah, that's us. Yeah, we put ourselves at the bottom, but
you should be at the top. No, well said.
No.
So yeah, the whole point is to engage the local community. People have no idea what's going on. I got my hair cut today, and I was talking to the hair cutter, and she was super stoked about this. And she had never really heard about blockchain or crypto before. So in order to really scale mass adoption, I think it's crucial to talk about the things that they actually care about. They use Instagram all the time and don't know that they don't own their photos when they post them on Instagram.
Sure.
So we have to really kind of meet them halfway, and that's the whole point of this talk. And she's coming to the conference now. So this is the whole point.
All right, so let me ask you a question, and Zach, I want you to answer this question too. You three, okay? Like, I mean, me and Ashlie can sit here, we can have our opinions, but we're from a generation that's behind you, just one generation behind. And I mean, as hip or as in tune as I like to believe that I am, Ashlie, I'm not speaking for you, just for me. I also know that this is a very different. I mean, I grew up without a cell phone, right? Have you guys ever known a world without one? I mean, like, it's a very different style of growing up. Information has always been in front of you, where I believe, like, I'm still really grateful for a lot of things. I don't blame anybody for being like a used to being able to Google search every question that's ever existed to some extent, right? If it's a fact, you might get different variations of it, but you could find the answer if you really, if you're honest with yourself, you can find the truth. But that being said, even the generation behind you is going to grow up even differently than you. And you're going to sit there and you're going to say things like me. Hey, look, I mean, I had it difficult. I had it rough, just like my parents used to tell me. But what do you see as like a catalyst into what's going to happen next with the blockchain through your generation? Because you're really going to pioneer your generation. Zach, PG, Cam, your generation is going to be the one that actually pioneers this. The ones who really, we might bring it to awareness, me and Ashlie, but really it's this college generation today that's going to make something out of it, right? So what do you see? What's the thought process going on through the college campuses, through this interaction that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis? What's next for the blockchain as your generation goes?
For me, I mean, like, I think this idea of decentralized data ownership is the killer app. It's not quite scaled yet because in a permissionless environment, it's just not feasible right now. But robots will replace our jobs, but they won't replace our data. So we need a way to verifiably prove what we have and like what we're creating, because this is almost going to be all we have later on. And
can you say that again?
Yeah, so robots are going to replace our jobs, but not our data.
That's
we need a way to
what you just said right
prove.
there, though. Like what you just said is a statement. First off, I've never heard it. So if it's a common throughout your generation, I apologize. But that's a really powerful statement. Like humans can't just go away, right? Like they still need us to make money. And through that, we have a right to that to an extent, right? I mean, it's ours. It's our information. It's our wants and needs. Anyways, I'm sorry. I just think that's a really powerful statement.
Yeah, thank you. So this idea of digital sovereignty is crucial for the progress of humanity. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing and, trying to push this technology, because I've looked into it a lot. And I really think that this is one of the only things that we can do to ensure our longevity on this earth.
Sure.
So that's one of dozens of reasons why I think this is important and why our generation will care about it.
I would like to add on this on the student side on campus. I feel like the way we can drive mass adoption specifically for us at universities is making people realize that they don't have a digital identity yet. Like what they think is their digital identity online is actually not a real one. They don't own it. So they're getting them from third parties, other companies. And for them, it's good because, it's free. The service is fine. It works great. It looks good. But, if it's free, you're the product. So people should start asking, hey, do I want to be the product? Can I monetize on this? Why are these corporations making billions of dollars on me? And I just get 100 likes. And by the way, Instagram just obscured likes, so not even that anymore. So people will not be able to brag anymore. So I feel that's like the major step that has to happen in order for people to truly realize how powerful this technology is. And we are on a mission. Zach.
What about you, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think it's really important that we kind of, the adoption continues. I think in the way that it will be felt most is that processes that we already know today will just get easier and more efficient. For example, sending money overseas right now, you have to use a wire transfer, which is like very old technology. Blockchain is kind of replacing that so that you can send money much quicker and faster and cheaper. And people who are using those systems won't even know that it's the blockchain operating underneath the hood. So I think that what will be the biggest innovation will be kind of people using it to make existing systems better, more secure, and more private. I mean, I think what Cameron said is really important, and same with PG, in terms of our own digital identity online. I think that having a sovereign identity that you own, that you control, that isn't being sold to different companies to target ads towards you is really important. And I think that's why a lot of us are in this space, is because we really value this idea of owning your own data, something that's more of something we'd like to have than actually exists today. So I think blockchain will be a huge part in making that process more transparent. Right now, if I asked anyone, any of us, where's our information shared online, like who has it and who sees it and who uses it, like none of us would probably be able to answer accurately, like who has that data and what the hell they're doing with it. And I think that blockchain will be able to make that a lot more transparent and give users and people a lot more control over that data, as well as the monetization of it.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say that I definitely do not know where all of my data is or who owns it.
But that's common in our generation, Ash.
I'm really looking forward to blockchains. I mean, I'm looking forward to moving all of my financial and social transactions to the blockchain. So thank you, PG.
Hold on. I got one more thing to say, Ash.
Yeah.
I'll be quick on this. Like, and I don't want to speak in specifics, and I want to be very generic when I say this, but there's some truth in what I'm saying. And as this world continues to evolve on a education level, like people are getting, you can say, smarter and dumber at the same time, right? But one thing that is happening is that the social issues of the past are eroding, and they're becoming, we're meshing. I think we're gelling as a nation, and I'm speaking as a Southerner who grew up with very conservative politics in front of me consistently, right? And I've broken free from the idea that left or right. I'm a human being. I'm an American, and we all have to live together. And I think blockchain is that unifier. I think it's what's always attracted me to this space, is that I'm really close friends with people who are both on the left and right, who see this as like, hey, you know what? Actually, I'm not even worried about those things anymore, because we see a bigger picture. And, going back to what both PG and Cameron said, and obviously, Zach, what you've kind of, I love seeing and hearing your influence into the college space, because what I'm not hearing a lot of divisive stuff. I'm hearing a lot of unification, and we're begging as a world, not just as a nation, for this type of stuff. And so exciting, exhilarating. I want to tell you guys, great job. I'm proud of you. You're welcome on this show all the time, especially PG and Cam. I'm meeting you for the first time. Zach, obviously you've been someone who I've communicated with over the last couple of weeks, but guys, you got represented very well for your school and for your generation, I think.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate that.
All right, Ashlie, it's yours. Sorry, I had to have my little moment.
No, thank you guys so much for hopping on. Just wanted to be able to share your event. So if anybody wants to find out more about the conference that Mousebelt is helping with this weekend at UCSB, it's sbbs.site.
Yes.
And thanks for hopping on, guys. And everyone, stay tuned to Bitcoin Radio. We're going to be having more students on, and I definitely want to do a deep dive into everything that Mousebelt has been doing with UCSB. So we are definitely going to be hearing more from these guys, and they'll come back on again soon.
Yeah, and y'all's former president was on before.
Ruben.
Yeah, man, what a good dude. He killed it. I'm actually in I'm in the US, the Santa Barbara Facebook group. So I pay attention every day. Anyways, all right, PG and Cameron, we'll see y'all next time.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Cheers.
Yeah, and so speaking of like the ways that we've collaborated with students and what that looks like actually in practice and kind of concrete examples of it, maybe you can share more about some of the events you do and what your event schedule is like coming up. And for anyone watching, we could show your events page, but I'll try to just be very descriptive for anyone listening.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up actually right now. So
for sure. So last October we hosted, like I said earlier, the biggest blockchain expo in the Pacific Northwest. As this loads, we had a ton of speakers from all over the place, startups, bigger companies, technical workshops, as well as kind of a dinner beforehand. So this was a really exciting event that brought lots of different people together. So that was something that we did last year. This year we want to expand it and make it even bigger and more exciting. So that's gonna be launching in spring. But something a little bit earlier that we're planning for early February, we want to do a hackathon. We're planning this hackathon to be a massive event. We want to invite all the different schools in the Mousebelt Alliance and just schools in general who are blockchain. We want to invite lots of different mentors so that we can really get together and build different projects. I think that's something that may be a little bit lacking in this space right now is actual projects that are fostered by students. So we kind of wanted to change that by bringing them all together to work on actual technical projects in a hackathon with mentors from Mousebelt, from Amazon, Microsoft, these other companies in the Pacific Northwest. So that's something that we're very, very excited about. It's going to be happening early February. Something a little bit smaller scale, but also pretty exciting. Next Monday, just like 4 or 5 days from now, we're going to be having a WTF is blockchain event at UW Bothell. We have a speaker from Microsoft coming in for that to kind of talk about what they're doing in the space. And I'll be speaking on that as well. So we really have events almost, every couple of weeks. We have a lot of members who are constantly wanting more information. So we're really excited to put those on. The event that we had this year, we had about 200 students turn out, and we were lucky enough to have Microsoft, IBM, and a local startup here, Stably, come out to that, as well as CoinMe, which is kind of a bigger ATM crypto company. So really exciting and engaging. If you want to find out more events from us, you can join our newsletter on our main website, follow us on social media. We do stuff all the time. So definitely stay tuned. The events are going to keep coming as well as the projects.
What is your main website?
Our main website is utahblockchain.org, and on the very top of that, there's a newsletter. Sign in. If you just go ahead and put your email in there, we send out email blasts all the time, as well as on social media.
Awesome. Yeah. So I just wanted to give you a chance to, talk about, promote a little bit, talk about some of the things that you have coming up. But I think we can bring it back to the broader conversation of crypto and blockchain in general by asking you that question. WTF is blockchain?
Right. So, yeah.
Or what?
There's no more appropriate question. I mean, that's a great way to introduce the space, folks. I mean, well done, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how a lot of people feel. They're just like, WTF is this? I've heard everything, the hype. I've heard Bitcoin. I've heard it's going to change the world. Like, what is this? So kind of, and how I would like to explain it in a very simple way is that it's the new internet. Okay. When people built the internet initially, I think it was meant to be very decentralized and user-centric, but it very quickly became consumed into a couple companies, right? Facebook controls 80% of the social media kind of network that happens. Google, almost all searches go through that. It's very centralized in these companies. I think blockchain, what it does is it decentralizes existing structures to make them more democratic and more equal. So kind of what I mean by that is if it's, money in terms of Bitcoin, these cryptocurrencies, they've made money more democratic. If it's ID, they're putting ID on the blockchain. That's kind of made it more equitable. So I think that, there's lots of different ways that we could look at this.
No, well said. Hey, Zach, okay, so can I ask you another question real quick?
Sure.
What has been the most fun part of this journey for you?
I think I
don't want no politically correct answer. If it's parties, if it's I get drunk every weekend with a bunch of really smart people, I want that to be the answer.
Personally, I think what I've loved most about this and got out of this is the travel. Blockchain is global. Okay. I went to the Philippines. There's blockchain, there's people learning about this at colleges in the Philippines. There's people learning about this in London. So it's kind of cool because no matter where I go or whatever the event is, I'll get to make kind of new friends and places. And when I go there, it's my network becomes more and more global. So I think that's been the most exciting thing is really just getting to travel new places, get to see new things and meet new people. That has been absolutely fascinating to me.
So, let me ask you another question too. And we're going to, I know, Ashlie, we got to wind this down soon. You told me to keep this under an hour or around about an hour. So we'll do that, but I get excited when I start hearing some innovation, when I start hearing new people, when I start hearing people that I've never heard before, plain and simple, be excited about blockchain who've got the future in front of them, like yourself, Zach. You speak very well for yourself and you represent your campus and you represent Mousebelt and Ashlie very well too. Yeah. And you should be very proud, I believe. But I think about where all this started. And I think about how blockchain has really evolved from one simple concept that was born out of a recession and a complete, I have to compare it to the United States economy because that's a very important economy to the entire world. But I don't want to be super American about this, right? There's more than just America's problems that lead to issues in the entire world. I mean, go look at Zimbabwe. They have $1 trillion bill that is worthless, right? I mean, this is a common concept. Does your understanding and and you think at a high level, and I don't want to pretend I'm just talking to anybody. I'm talking to the president of the University of Washington Blockchain Society, right? So, you care a lot about the space, but does the common person that enters into your society, into the blockchain society at UW, do they understand the gravity in which blockchain actually brings about a different perspective and a different capability?
The short answer is maybe.
That's a good answer, by the way. I understand.
Learning. I think that how they see it is kind of like I said earlier, the new internet, right? If anyone says what's exciting on the internet, we'd be like, what do you mean? The internet, think of the internet.
Where do I start?
Right? YouTube is exciting, or maybe Instagram is exciting, or Mousebelt Radio, that's so, Bitcoin Radio. Super
Mousebelt Radio works.
That's kind of how blockchain is. Blockchain isn't in itself, it's just a word. you have to put applications on that blockchain that make it interesting. So I think, yeah, people get excited about blockchain, but they get even more excited about like how it's being used at Microsoft, or how this or that company is using it, and then like how I as a student or they as a student could help that process. So I think what's exciting about it is that it's not just hype anymore. There's actually work and progress going on that people can touch, and it makes it a lot more tangible.
Keep talking, Zach. I love it, man. You're getting me fired up. We're just getting started. We're not getting off. I mean, this is how I love this stuff, right? Okay, so Ashlie, I'll let you kind of have some final words, but you already know I got a quick fire ready, Zach. So you better be ready for this.
I'm ready.
I didn't warn you. You have no idea what's coming, do you? Have you been listening? Good.
Oh, he didn't prepare.
Good. I got, bro. You better be ready, Ashlie. I'll let you kind of wind this down so I can get ready to work Zach over real quick.
Yeah, I was happy that Zach mentioned this idea of making blockchain tangible, because we were talking about it right before the show, and it was actually another student that I was speaking to about why I think it's important for industry to start getting involved, and why I'd like to invite anyone listening to this who is on a team who cares about blockchain education and wants to get involved with the Blockchain Education Alliance. Especially people who have curriculum, who want to host office hours, who want to fund some of these students' hackathons and their research projects, especially at the undergraduate level. That's where we're seeing a big gap, is undergraduate hands-on development and research funding. So anyone interested in getting involved with what Mousebelt's doing, as always, you can find me there, Ashlie, Ashlie, at mousebelt.com, and everything Mousebelt University is at mousebelt.university. And yeah, thanks again to Zach for being on and all that he shared with us.
I before E, unless it's a Y.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, that was funny, right? A little higher level. I'm too smart for everybody.
Yeah,
all right,
we'll work on our.
My jokes are good. Come on,
they are.
Stop, man. I'm funny. All right, y'all leave me alone. Hey, look, I can do what I want. All right, that's what I'm talking about. All right, Zach, where can people find you at, man, before we get started?
Find me on LinkedIn, Zachary Nelson. If you just look up Zachary Nelson, you have blockchain, you can find me there. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me.
I also want to give a big shout out to Pigi and Cam. Thank you for joining us tonight, folks. If you're a college student, if you're somebody who's a parent or a friend of a college student who wants to get involved in blockchain, direct them to Ashlie. Even if there's not a place for them in their college campus to go and do blockchain cool stuff, right? Ashlie can probably at least direct that conversation or help them find a way to make that happen. And I mean it, Ashlie, obviously I consider you a close friend, but obviously an ambassador, not just for, crypto, but for people. And I love that about you. And obviously I'm proud to share the stage with you, this chair and the microphone, and as it goes. But now it's my favorite part of the show, and that's called Quick Fire. And Zach, you don't know what's coming yet. I like to ask questions. It's a yes or no. I usually tell people they don't have to answer if they don't want to, but you're a little bit different because you're actually affiliated with the Mousebelt. So I look forward to you having to answer all these questions. If not, I'm going to tell Patrick. So I'm just joking. Patrick won't care. He'll probably be like, tell Joe to shut up, so. But first, I like to start off with I want to thank you again, Zach. Ashlie, you've been a wonderful co-host tonight, and I can't wait till we do this. We're going to try to do this every week, everybody. So get excited. It's happening. And, I also, if you want certain questions answered, or if you have some thoughts about what we should be addressing, if this is something that maybe you're not a college student, maybe you're 55 years old and you've been out of college for 30 years or 40 years, and you just want to know what people are thinking, let us know. We want to make sure that we're answering questions that are entertaining and educational. We got to have fun, right? And I told everybody on this call, I said, we're going to at least have fun. Do we have fun tonight, folks?
Yeah.
I had a great time.
All right. Okay, cool. All right, Zach. So first question. Favorite movie of all time, you have to answer right now.
The Godfather.
Damn good answer. That the last time I did quick fire with somebody, they said The Godfather. So
first movie I thought of.
Is there a certain Godfather, or is it like the series, or number one?
Probably part two, but now that I'm thinking of it, it's actually Place Beyond the Pines. That is my favorite movie, the best movie.
So you're changing it?
Yeah, once I had a second to think.
That's the point of fire.
Sorry.
I have not seen that movie. I have not seen that movie, but I actually think someone has brought that movie up recently to me. Is that a newer movie?
No, I think it's maybe 5 or 6 years old. So
what is it about? Give me you got 15 seconds.
It's about generational families and how they affect each other.
Okay, fair enough. Ashlie, what was your answer when I asked you?
You didn't actually ask me that.
Well, guess what? It's time. Favorite movie? You got 10 seconds. Go.
Probably Sabrina with Audrey Hepburn, or just my collection of Audrey Hepburn films. Yeah, she's my favorite.
All right, well said. Well said. I can't argue with that. All right, so this is one of my favorite questions to ask, and sometimes I mix it up. But all right, Zach, this is for you. Aliens. All right, so since humans have been around this planet for a very small part of the actual existence of the universe, right? I mean, we're talking about a couple 100,000 years at the most, as science sees it. But that's debatable too. Like, I mean, we're assuming and we're guessing in a lot of these manners, but we take a lot of this as fact. That's fine, as science goes, right? And I don't want to get too deep into that. But of those few years that humans have existed, have aliens outside of planet Earth interacted with humans? Not necessarily like have humans, I mean, it's gonna have aliens driven by Earth, like as it's like a melting planet, just trying to figure out what it is. I'm talking about with humans around.
No.
Can you expand? Because that was like really boring answer.
Sorry. No, yeah. I just don't think so. I think that if aliens had been able to interact with us, we'd all be like colonized right now. Like we'd all be
but are we not colonized?
Not by aliens.
I mean, what are we? Or maybe humans are the aliens.
Maybe, but just in my opinion, I don't think that they've come yet. I think aliens exist. If that was your question, I would say, yeah, I think aliens exist. I just don't think that they've come to Earth just yet.
Ashlie, I hope you have a cooler answer. Zach, I'm done talking to you right now. That was a boring answer. Ashlie, do you have a cooler answer than that?
My answer had been that I know too much, or I've read too much sci-fi to think that we would have been destroyed if we'd been found.
Oh, wait, so you say no?
That they haven't been to Earth.
What if we are literally the aliens?
We are aliens to someone else.
Especially as we start colonizing ourselves, because we're, that's what humans do. All right, moving on. All right, Zach, favorite song. Actually, I want to rephrase that. If you were a movie, what would be your intro song? Which is different than your favorite song.
Probably Problems Coming 3 by
which is
like all about what?
Can you hum it? Like, or sing it if you're a good singer?
Like that. It's like Problems Coming. Right. You beat them down. I don't know. I just like the song.
Okay. No, I don't know the song really well. I've heard it obviously. Ashlie, do you have a answer for yourself?
I'm like singing it in my head right now. It's Smooth Sailing by Queens of the Stone Age.
Chill. Of course, that's classic. I always agree with you though. Like, Ashlie, you've got a good perspective. All right, moving on. Bitcoin as a political party, Zach, yes or no?
As a political party? No. I don't think that Bitcoin is political.
What do you think it is?
I mean, it could be taken as a political thing. And I think a lot of libertarians are probably fans of Bitcoin. Sure. But I think in itself, it's not political, because you could like use Bitcoin to donate to anyone you wanted. And then like, would it be political towards that thing? I don't know. I
mean, you would be acting in a political manner, but I understand your concept there. But let me ask you, I mean, like, isn't that a political statement in its own?
Yes. I mean, I'll take it back. I think Bitcoin could be politicized, and that people will debate over its ethics from both sides of the aisle. But I think that overall, like, the technology itself isn't political. And it's like when Satoshi made it,
agreed.
Like, you know what? This is going to make sure that blah, blah, blah party is going to always win or something.
It's a great answer. It's actually one of the better answers I've had. All right, Ashlie, I'm hesitant to give this question to you because I know what you do for a living, but let's hear it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to disagree that it's not political, because
which I do agree with that.
I mean, I wrote the paper I wrote to get into graduate school was about Aristotle's politics. I love Aristotle, but he was the guy who took Plato and Plato's Republic and said, okay, this is great. What a great utopia, but it's not practical. So what are the practical constitutions that exist, and which ones are the best that we've got, or at least get close enough to what his ideal was, right? Which is the golden mean, the mean between two extremes. So he thought that what was best for democracy was a certain kind of relationship between the rich and the poor. And he just made very clear to me in that text that politics is economics. That's just my
No, look, and I don't disagree with you. And I think, obviously as someone who's grown up, especially throughout, like as a teenager in the 2000s, and then, into the teens of the 2000s, I've clearly watched this country kind of erode into its own politics, which both sides I think are very right and very wrong in their own rights. I mean, like, you can be right and wrong at the same time, and it's a really weird way to be. I hate that people can justify themselves, because they can. A lot of times they can justify what they believe is right, and they can also be justified against by people who believe they're right. And it's just like, how do you overcome this? And this is where money, like, people will unite over money. And this is where I believe Bitcoin is the unifier, kind of what I was getting at. That's a difference. Ashlie, you probably have some ways to, like, make me look really stupid right now. Thank you for not telling me. But I do think that money can be the great unifier in this, in money, I mean Bitcoin in this circumstance. But Zach, you had, like I told you, that was one of the better answers I've ever heard for the answer no. So well done. All right. So Bitcoin is still the topic here, but it's in a different circumstance. Bitcoin, can it be $1 million? Zach, you first.
Yes, absolutely. It can be any price that people demand it to be. I mean, like I said, I bought Bitcoin at $11. I mean, initially, the fact that it would have hit $10,000 if you would have asked me back then, I would have been like, "You're crazy."
You didn't just buy it; you mined it.
We did, yes.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I was with other people who were smarter than me. But
well, you're smart enough to be with them.
That's true. Very true. But
don't ever take that away from yourself.
It could totally hit $1 million. Why not? Absolutely.
Ashlie?
Why not?
Be, right? It better be. Shit. It better be $1 million. We've been waiting long enough. No, obviously I understand. All right, so we'll round it off with this. And again, for everybody who's watched tonight, who will watch in the future, thank you so much. We want to have your opinion. We want to hear from you. We want you to know that, like, this is a entertainment segment about education and where education is in blockchain. I think it's an incredible opportunity to see what's happening next. And Zach, you've been an incredible guest. Ashlie, as a co-host, I appreciate what you offer, what you bring to the table. Ashlie, I know I can't divulge this, and I don't even know the name yet, because she's got a little secret project working, but she's going to have her own show soon. And it could be about whatever. I mean, blockchain, maybe. Philosophy, probably. I mean, in between. I cannot wait to listen, though. I'll tell you that much. But we'll finalize this, and Zach, feel free to expand or to just answer this simply. But blockchain, has it matured at a big enough and grand enough level? If the next bull run was today, are we prepared?
Yes, absolutely. I think blockchain today is way more mature than people realize. I think that if you look into the job space alone, year over year, and I wanted to mention this because one of my developers told me to mention this on the segment, it's growing at 513% a year.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, maybe the bull run is over in terms of crypto, but not the job market.
Maybe it's not.
The market's in a bull run right now for blockchain.
Hey, let me give you some advice. Never, ever say it might be over. Just say it might start again instead.
It's never over.
It's never over, right? I think Bitcoin is going to be $1 million. And you just said that. Don't contradict yourself. No, I'm just joking. I think your answer was very honest and very mature of you. So I don't want to pretend like or take away from what your answer was. It was great. Ashlie?
Yeah, I think, we've had all of the real hustlers working through the crypto winter, just continuing to innovate and collaborate. And a lot of stuff has been kind of happening behind the scenes, as we've heard on this this episode, right? Even on the grassroots student level, people who discovered crypto when they were 14. It's going to be very different the next few times around.
It's really cool, and that's a great point, Ashlie. And like, just to even have you on, Zach, like, I know, like, you coming on the show, you're grateful to be here, and you're a really respectable and classy dude, and I appreciate your appreciation. But, like, it's really cool for me to have you on here, because I watch what your generation is going to do for this space, and it's like, without you, we are screwed. Like, I hope the new generation comes in, really grabs it, shakes it up, be like, you know what, I'm gonna set this part on fire and get rid of it, and then build on top of, because you're lacking a certain level of, like, what you already know should exist. Like how can we not have this already? Let's build it, right? That's what's happening in this generation. Also, think about this, Ashlie. The millennial generation is no longer that generation. Like, this is a new generation of kids. It's not a millennial anymore. It's like I don't even know what to call you guys. Like, you're not millennial.
Gen Z.
Yep.
Is that really what you're called?
Yep. You're
at the end. It can't be Generation Z.
You are a Gen Xer. I'm a Gen.
No, I'm 80. I'm 85, and 84 is millennial. Don't put me in that old man category.
Okay, boomer.
Chill out, bro. What are you talking about? All right, that was funny though, Ashlie. I got to give you that. All right. Okay, I got to stop talking. If I keep going, we're going to have another hour of this, which is fine by me, but I love to talk. Ashlie, any final words?
No, just reminding everyone to check out Mousebelt if you're interested in getting involved with student developers, or if you're a student, if you don't even know where to start, just remind everyone as well. I do a course within Mousebelt University called Student Leadership in Blockchain. So specifically how to become a confident and competent crypto user, how to confidently and competently talk about these topics to other people, and why it matters. And that's what I love talking about the most.
Also, if you like losing arguments, go ahead and start trying to argue with Ashlie because she's great at humbling. All right, Zach, any final words, man?
I just want to say thank you so much to Ashlie and Mousebelt for having us, this great partnership. And Joe, thank you so much for having me on. And also just thank you to the huge team that supports all of the work we do. We have a huge team of officers at UW who do a lot of good work. And as a final note, if you're watching this and you're thinking about, should I get into blockchain? Stop waiting, jump in. Even if you know literally nothing, go to a meetup near you, learn something new and get involved. You won't regret it.
And even if maybe they are in blockchain or they want to be in blockchain, but they're too scared or too worried that it's not, they can't make a difference. Zach, are you open to that conversation and encouragement?
You should always go for it. You have nothing to lose.
Can they call you?
You can call me. Sure.
Would you answer the phone?
It's possible.
No, the answer is yes. We all take care of each other. It's the cryptoverse. If we don't take care of it, everybody, who else will, right? I trust you.
The coolest. I'll put it like that. Blockchain people are the coolest people to each other.
That's right. Obviously, no. I mean, please message him first or email before you call him so you might get an answer. But anyways, all right, Bitcoin Radio. Look, I hope you enjoyed this wonderful, awesome conversation tonight with a new generation of people who not just love this crypto space, but are building it. They're building the blockchain at a level that we don't even know how to. And it's so true. It's going to change so big, so great, and so grand. Zach, if you guys don't do it, I'm blaming you. How about that?
All right.
I'm not going to put that on you. All right. Until next time, Bitcoin Radio. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Ashlie. Always, Zach. We'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.